So the College Football Playoff Committee has agreed to expansion. No, not the one that we just signed off on, where a dozen teams starting in 2024 will fight over the course of a month for a national title. That's going to last 2 years because in 2026, we're going to go to 14 teams. And on paper, this sounds wonderful for the SEC. More representation, probably more representation for the Big Ten too. But in reality, the College Football Playoff Committee has absolutely destroyed our favorite sport. What's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the ring notification down below. That way you don't miss a single episode of SEC Unfiltered, because we're talking about the #1 conference in all of college athletics daily. Make sure that you also follow us on social media at SEC Unfiltered. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Wherever you got social media, we got you covered. Go ahead and follow me on my own social media channel at Mr. Cole Thompson, my own YouTube channel at Mr. Cole Thompson. Make sure that you also download the podcast version of the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast listening systems. And to keep up with everything going on in the #1 conference in all of college athletics, make sure that you visit secunfiltered.com. So the college football playoff is ruined. I'm sorry, it is, because here's the problem. It's never, ever going to end. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the ramifications that are happening. So because we're going to 14 teams, that means that the SEC and the Big Ten will make more than what they were promised at the 12 team. It'll go from $5.5 million to $21 million. The ACC is going to get about $13 million. The Big 12 is going to get about, I think, $12 million. And then Group of 5 schools will go from 1.5 to 1.8. The bottom line is that this is all about money. People are loving the fact that they are getting money, and college athletic directors are loving it, and school presidents are loving it. But what about us as fans? Do we love it? Do we even care? Honestly, do you care that you're now seeing your school get more money? Because where does that money go toward you? Does it lower the ticket prices? Does it make it better atmosphere and a better environment? Does the concessions go down? Does your hard-earned money that you're giving to the university every single time that you step inside a stadium, is that going to help you? Probably not. And that's kind of the problem. At the end of the day, people were always talking about what was the right number when it came to expansion. I'll be completely real. I knew from the jump that expansion was always going to happen. Whether or not we agreed that when the College Football Playoff Committee came out and said, hey, we're going to do 4 teams instead of the BCS numbers, you knew that it was going to start there, but you figured, well, if you get to 8 teams, at least everyone will be represented. You'll have the Power 5 conferences. Yes, the Power 5 still existed in my own reality. And then you'll get 3 at-large bids. Maybe that at-large bid could be a Cinderella team, because we have seen the Cinderella stories start to unfold. And yes, I know you're going to say Cincinnati is a Cinderella story that was a 1 in a million fluke. Well, not many people believed Washington last year would go on a run where they went undefeated in the Pac-12's final season and then made it to the national championship. And the year prior, nobody thought that Sonny Dykes in his first season at TCU, replacing a legend in the state of Texas, was ever going to lead this team to a national title. But he did. Regardless of what happened against Georgia in the game, you knew that he actually led the team to victory. That's not the point. The point is that when you get 8 teams, you still get that Cinderella story. But I hate using this line because someone else uses it, and I don't want to be called a critic that I steal from other people. But he isn't wrong. When you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. And milk is 8 teams. And 8 teams turns to 12 teams. And 12 teams turns to 14 teams. And just round the rabbit hole, here we are. And it's only going to continue. Yeah, we'll have 14 teams now. But we have 14 teams now because likely there is a reasoning behind it. You know how we continue to hear about what could happen if the SEC and the Big Ten don't like what the future of college football looks like? Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey are in the midst of their own corner in the world of college football, or college athletics in general, pining over what should be the right moves moving forward. And what if they don't agree that, 12 teams is enough? Because with 12 teams, well, the SEC is going to get promised 2 teams, and the Big Ten is going to get promised 2 teams. But in a 14-team playoff, well, you're promised 4 teams. 4 teams are going to get into the playoff for both of you sides. Well, we don't want 4 teams. We want now 5 teams. We want more representation. Our conference just means more, and you're paying us more money. That means we should have more representation. So now we're going to expand to 16 teams. Well, now you're watching as those 16 teams duke it out, and they're bringing in the most revenue. And now you want to make it 10 qualified teams. Well, 10 qualified teams turns to 18 teams, and 18 turns to 24, and 24 turns to 32. And lo and behold, here we are, just like the Big Ten, just like the NCAA March Madness tournament, where games are going to be played. And honestly, the regular season is going to be shortened. Or is it? Is it going to be elongated now into February, right alongside the Super Bowl? This is where we have problems in the world of college football. And this is where you need a college football commissioner to put his foot down and say, you know what? If we are going to make these changes, we are going to have finite rules in place because it doesn't end here. That's the problem. It's never going to end here. And it doesn't just happen for the bureaucrats. It doesn't just happen for the game. It happens for the on-field pageantry and the off-field pageantry. But before we get into that, just remember, guys, right now we are working with our friends over at MyBookie. If you're still in the hunt for a sports book to call home, go ahead and visit MyBookie, the nonstop action for all of March Madness. Your favorite team is about ready to swing their way into the dance. Don't you want to go ahead and win a little bit of cash while you're at it? Enter the bracket contest for a chance to win up to $25,000, or go ahead and pick from a huge selection of straight bets, props, odds, boosts, whatever your style. MyBookie makes it easier for you and your way to get paid. Sign up at mybookie.ag and take advantage of our generous welcome offer by using the promo code SECU, where your first deposit could be up to $1,000. That promo code is SECU. And just remember, March Madness is right around the corner. Don't you want to win a little bit of cash in your pocket? Go ahead and visit mybookie.ag and use the promo code SECU. Now, back to my point about how college football playoff is going to be ruined moving forward. Well, here's the thing. The games stop mattering. And they'll tell you right now, well, you don't want more games. That means that you're not a fan of college football. No, I'm a fan of college football. In fact, I would say I'm one of the biggest fans of college football. I eat, live, and breathe this sport. I talk about it nonstop, and I've made it a career for myself. But I care about good football. Do me a favor. Go back in week 3 of the college basketball season and tell me who your team played without looking it up. Oh, wait, you can't do that because you know that one of those games probably isn't going to carry as much weight going into March. Do me a favor. Go look right now at last week's schedule in the non-conference games in the SEC for college baseball. Oh, wait, you don't maybe know exactly what was the final pitching line for your starter because that game may not carry weight when it comes to the national tournament later on down the line. But every game matters in college football. Yes, even the ones against Appalachian State, ask Texas A&M in week 2 of 2021. They will tell you straight up how embarrassing it was to walk into a locker room losing to that roster. And you will know how embarrassed fans were walking out of Kyle Field understanding what that meant because the games matter. The games always matter. Go back to last season. Texas marches in to Bryant-Denny Stadium, the house that Nick Saban has conquered and established as his own, even though Bear Bryant's name is on the board. And the Longhorns put down not only a performance to remember, but a performance to make sure other teams realize we're coming and we're hungry. Well, now that game doesn't really matter because what happens if you lose? Oh, well, we still have a shot at 9-3 to get into college football playoff. We still have a shot to maybe not have to worry about these little tidbits that go on in our sport. We're still good regardless of if a player doesn't feel up to it, if he has a bad performance. It's not really going to carry that much weight. And it affects the fans too. I grew up in Texas. I'm not from Texas, but I grew up in Texas. My family's all from the Midwest, and we didn't really understand what SEC football or really what the Lone Star rivalry was. But our neighbors did, and they loved it. And every Thanksgiving, I remember our neighbors coming on over, and we would talk about the game, and they were excited because they were from Austin, and they loved the burnt orange, and they cared about the Lone Star rivalry, Texas A&M versus Texas. And Thanksgiving night, they didn't have to worry about the NFL. We worried about college football. And that game meant something. And I got very lucky to go to Kyle Field, the old Kyle Field, and actually see one of those games live. I remember what the feeling was like among my friends that grew up huge Longhorn fans when Justin Tucker made that kick and they had bragging rights for over a decade against the Aggies. And I could use the scenario for any team really out there. The Iron Bowl, as an Alabama grad, I can tell you that the kick six still resides in my memory bigger than anything else because of what that moment meant in college football. That game carried more weight for both schools than people actually care to realize because of it meant for a national championship. one of those two schools was likely going to play for a title. And guess what? One did. You can use it in the Egg Bowl. What about what happens when you see Elijah Moore kick up his leg and it leads to the firing of Matt Luke? Lane Kiffin is sitting in Boca Raton getting ready to play in a Conference USA title. And lo and behold, those in Oxford are ready to go ahead and bring him in for a huge, deplorable future. Bright games. But none of it matters anymore, because why would it when you're 9-3 and you're going to be a 10 seed? Oh, well, don't worry. You'll still travel, but your roster is good enough, and maybe you'll play against an ACC school. So you'll know you'll kick their ass 10 times over, and you'll be fine. So it doesn't carry that much weight. But as a fan, it carries weight to you. It carries weight to us because of what that game means, what the rivalries are, what it's like to waft in the smell of smoke at Neyland Stadium, and you're an Alabama grad, seeing the pure detriment of disdain from fans clad in that orange. What about when Alabama travels down to LSU, or when LSU was able to go ahead and march into Bryant-Denny with Joe Burrow, and the sound of silence reeked across the halls of Bryant-Denny? What about when Johnny Manziel was able to catch a football that was bad down at the line of scrimmage and find Ryan Swoop, and it got silent in Bryant-Denny Stadium, or a countless other place? Insert team here. Rivalries mean something, but now, well, we lost, but maybe we'll get them in the playoff. That's the new thought process. Congratulations. That's going to be the new norm. And here's the other part that no one seems to be talking about, which is a really big deal. As more games get expanded, does that mean the season gets shorter? Does that mean that we get rid of conference title games? And what if we don't? What if we don't get rid of those conference title games? Well, now college football players who currently are wondering about their NIL deals, and rightfully so, because of with more expansion, that does more wear and tear on their bodies. How many of them opt out? How many of them go before the start of the season and they say, I'm going to miss 2 games this year. I'm going to circle this game. I'm going to circle this game. I'm going to circle this game. And those games, I am going to be inactive. You're not going to play me in those ones. Maybe it's good for the younger talent if you have games against, say, the tune-ups, the Chattanoogas, the Charleston Southerns, the Mountain West random school insert here. Maybe it ends up panning out for them. But what if it doesn't? What if it's a major game? What if it's the rivalry, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party? What if a running back 5-star phenom one day says, hey, you know what, Billy Napier? I'm not going to play in this game. I don't want to go ahead and hurt myself against this defensive line. I know I'm going to make millions in the NFL. I'll play next week. It's going to happen. That's the problem that people don't understand. It's going to happen. So the games not only are losing their morality, but the games are also losing their pageantry. The rivalries are starting to dwindle away to where it doesn't matter. And the only people profiting are those that don't even care about the sport. Because here's the problem. Prices are going to go up. Ticket sales is still going to be fine. They're not the ones paying for their tickets. They're not the ones listening to college football podcast every single Saturday. They're not the ones that go throughout the week talking about on sports talk radio shows what this game means. They're not the ones calling into Paul Feinbaum or into here on SEC Unfiltered. They're not the ones that actually care. But they're the ones that are profiting, and you're the one that gets to pay them. So congratulations to the College Football Playoff Committee. You're at 14 teams now in 2026. After we said, you know what, 12? Maybe a little too much, but not in your eyes. No, the green is smarter than anything else out there. And then it's going to be 18, and then it's going to be 24. And why stop there when you don't have to? Why? Because let's be real. The only thing that you care about is funneling more money in your pockets, not about the care and sustainability of the athletes. Congratulations, College Football Playoff Committee. You have opened Pandora's box, and you're never going to be able to close it. I just hope that you can live with yourself sound at night knowing that college football, the game that we've loved for years, the game that we've embraced, called our own, and made it completely different than the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and any other sport out there, including other college athletics, was simply ruined because you want to make a quick buck. Congratulations. You have destroyed college football. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Make sure you also hit the subscribe button and the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of SEC Unfiltered. Go ahead and visit mybookie.ag. Use the promo code SECU. That way you get to save at least $1,000. You get to make up to a $1,000 deposit on your first purchase. Make sure that you also are following us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you see fit at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me on my own YouTube channel. Follow me on my own social media platforms, both at Mr. Cole Thompson. And to keep up with everything going on in the #1 conference in all of college athletics, you and I both know this, make sure you visit SECUnfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks, later.